Business growth, it's got to be one of the most exciting things for any company, right? But what happens when that ambition crosses a new border? Well, it becomes this journey that's full of incredible opportunities, for sure, but it's also, let's be real, a minefield of hidden risks. So in this explainer, we're going to break down how you can navigate all those challenges and turn them into genuine, lasting success.
And this really is the big question, isn't it? It's not just about getting more customers. It's about building something that can actually last, something that doesn't just crumble under the weight of its own success. So, how do you do it? How do you strike that perfect balance?
You know, a good way to think about expansion is like a high-stakes game. The rewards, they can be massive, but the penalties for messing up, oh, they can be absolutely catastrophic. Every single new market you decide to enter comes with a completely new rulebook you have to master from scratch.
This slide just lays it all out perfectly. On one hand, you have the dream, right? A flood of new customers, a huge boost to your revenue. But lurking right under the surface is the tough reality. You're dealing with complex legal minefields and walking some very tricky ethical tightropes.
Okay, so let's tackle that first challenge head on, the legal maze. And it's really not an exaggeration to say that every new place you go, whether it's just a new state or a whole new country, it has its own unique, complicated set of laws that you have to follow right down to the letter.
And we're talking about a huge range of stuff here. You've got to consider local labor laws. That's everything from wages to working conditions. Then there are environmental regulations, and trust me, those can be wildly different from one place to the next. You've also got to figure out how to protect your intellectual property, your ideas, in a new legal system. And on top of all that, you have to navigate super strict anti-corruption policies and understand totally different ways of doing business. It is a lot.
So the most important point here is this. Trying to figure all of this out by yourself is just a recipe for disaster. Before you even think about setting up shop in a new market, getting local legal expertise is absolutely 100% non-negotiable. It's probably the single best investment you can make to protect your business.
All right, now let's talk about that second big challenge. Because beyond all the written laws, there's the ethical tightrope. This is all about your reputation, your permission to even operate, because, the court of public opinion, it is always in session.
This means you have to go way beyond just checking the legal boxes. It means you've got to actively respect the cultural norms of the communities you're joining. It means you have to fundamentally uphold human rights and make sure every single person in your supply chain is treated fairly. These aren't just nice-to-haves, they are core responsibilities.
And here, you can see the direct line between your actions and the consequences. Something like bribery. Well, it doesn't just feel wrong, it brings on severe legal penalties. Exploiting workers, that causes deep, lasting damage to your reputation. And being negligent with the environment, that's a surefire way to lose all credibility with your customers, your investors, everyone.
No, I know. After all these warnings, you might be thinking this all sounds impossible, but it's not. In fact, and this is the really cool part, doing good is actually great for business. So let's look at a real-world example of a company that totally nailed this.
We are going to look at Unilever. When they expanded into new and emerging markets, they didn't just chase profits. Nope. They created a whole strategy for responsible growth, and it's become this powerful model for any company that wants to expand today.
Their game plan was actually pretty clear and methodical. First, they didn't just meet the local standards. They adopted their own, even stricter rules for environmental and labor compliance. Second, they didn't just take value out of the community, they invested directly back into it. And third, they committed to ensuring fair wages for all their workers. Simple, right? But so powerful.
So, what was the end result of all this effort? Well, this is what we call the responsible growth payoff. And it goes so far beyond just avoiding some fines or dodging bad press. This is about building a fundamentally stronger and more resilient business for the long haul.
And this brings us to the core concept of this whole explainer. It's called the double win. It's this brilliant strategy where your actions make your company more profitable and create a positive social impact at the exact same time. They aren't two opposing forces. They're actually partners in success. By following this kind of principled approach, Unilever got some very real rewards. They built this incredible, positive global reputation that attracted the best talent and super loyal customers. They maintained rock-solid credibility with everyone, from investors to the local communities who welcomed them. They created sustainable business relationships built on trust. And guess what all of that leads to? It enhanced their long-term profitability, proving once and for all that doing good is, in fact, really good for business.
Which really leaves us with one final big question to think about. In the world we live in today, where everything is connected, where transparency is everything, and where customers care more than ever, have we hit a tipping point? Is ethical, responsible expansion not just a nice-to-have anymore, but an absolute requirement for any business that wants to achieve real, lasting success?